So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called God's Mighty Servant, 2011. I'm giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was pretty historically accurate, given the amount of information that was suppressed by the Vatican until recently under Bergoglio. This is the amazing story of Sister Pascalina Leonhardt, 1894 to 1983, who was the personal confidant and secretary to Pope Pius XII for 40 years when he was the papal nuncio in Germany. And then for his whole pontificate, the Pope had great confidence in her wisdom, energy, and loyalty. And she became known as the most powerful woman in the history of the Vatican. Never allow your affairs to be run by a woman. That's the moral of the story of this. I don't know why Pius XI was so amazed by her. It boggles the mind. I mean, instead of asking for separation of church and state, religious freedom, they should have been asking for separation of school and state, because Hitler had all the schools as sort of statist little indoctrination centers, like my son's high school. In 1918, the young nun Pascalini was sent to Munich to be the housekeeper of the new papal nuncio, Eugenio Pasolini. Though they seem to have little in common, Pasoli became impressed by Pascalina's directness, zeal, and alertness during his delicate negotiations on the Concordat with Bavaria and Prussia. He benefited from Pascalina's pertinent comments and clear-headed views. He is sad to leave her behind when he is appointed Cardinal Secretary of the State in 1929, and he moves to Vatican City, where women are forbidden to live. They should have kept it that way. But Pascalini's loyalty and strong support are missed, and she is invited to work in the Vatican, the first woman ever to do so, as part of Pascali's Vatican household. She contends with the intrigues and rivalries of men who resent the privileges she enjoys and the power she wields. But all the infighting soon pales before the horrors of the war, which begin the same year that Pascali is elected Pope and becomes Pius XII. As the war tears Europe apart, the Pope puts his life and the papacy itself on the line by opposing the Nazis and fascists. Did he really? I thought he was. Well, they didn't have the secret negotiations between him and the German ambassador. They didn't have those notes because the Vatican suppressed it up until Bergoglio, visiting the injured and steering through plots and conspiracies. He relies heavily on Sister Pascalina, his link to the world of the suffering and the persecuted. Really? I thought he only helped Catholic Jews and he let the other ones go to the... Well, Um, I don't know. We don't know what happened in those concentration camps. Father Maudsley says there are no gas chambers. Oh, my son's finally awake, I think. I tried blasting the air conditioner to wake him up. Now I got all the lights on and I'm doing the movie review. He should be getting dressed for church very soon, so I got to wrap this up. Thanks to the fearlessness of Rome's clergy and the tirelessness of Pascalina, he manages to save the lives of many Roman Jews. Yeah, that's debatable. They were probably Catholic. As head of the private papal charity, Pascalina uses her organizational skills to help thousands. She remains at Pacelli's side until his death in 1958 as his important confidant, valued advisor, and friend, God's mighty servant to the end. Isn't that nice? I thought it was well done, this one. They had Pius the 11th encyclical, which got banned in Germany, I guess. And then all of a sudden he died. They were about ready to publish the encyclical against Nazism by Pius the 11th, and all of a sudden he died mysteriously. They probably poisoned him. All right, God's Mighty Servant is a two-part German television film from 2011. It is about Pascalina Lehart, the housekeeper of Pope Pius XII, and is based on the biography of the same name by Martha Shad. By the way, I think you should wake up and get dressed. You got 20 minutes. The young peasant girl, Josephine Feeney Lehart, can no longer bear her father's anti-intellectual regime, and so she enters the convent of the Sisters of the Holy Cross to escape her annoying father. After years of trial by monastic life, she becomes Sister Pascalina. When Eugenio Pacelli is appointed apostolic nuncio to Munich to negotiate the Bavarian Concordat, Pascalina is tasked with managing his household. She soon becomes his private secretary as well. Wow, that was a fast promotion. Oh, old Pius XII couldn't wait to promote her. She takes up the position with great energy, and she improves the Nunciature's administration. During the revolutionary turmoil in Munich, she receives a visit from her sister Teresa, who informs her that her father is dying. Pascali urges the reluctant Pascalina to go to her father and reconcile with him. When she arrives, her father has already died. When Mother Superior Tharsila Thanner fails to remove Pascalina from Pacelli's household, she assigns sisters Bonafatia and Johanna to assist her. Influenced by the Hitler push, Pope Pius XI decides to have Pacelli negotiate a concordat with Prussia in Berlin. Pascalina takes on the preparations when she accuses Sister bona fide of incompetence in this matter, bona fide, and Johanna draft a letter to Mother Superior accusing Pascalina of living unchastely with Pacelli. Thou shalt not bear false witness. As a result, Mother Superior Tharcila removes Pascalina from her position and places her under house arrest to force her to confess in in an affair that she didn't participate in. As Pacelli's household becomes increasingly chaotic, he asks the Mother Superior in Switzerland to allow Pascalina to return to him. Since Pascalina develops asthma while under house arrest, she is sent against her will to a 6-month treatment program at St. Bartholomew Knossi. I guess that's some kind of German mountain. There she is able to resolve her doubts born out of confinement about which path is the right one, and asks the Mother Superior for permission to return to Pacelli. Shortly afterwards, he celebrates the successful conclusion of the Prussian Concordat and is promoted by the Pope to Cardinal Secretary of State. Pascalina is devastated to hear from Pacelli that she is not allowed to accompany him to the Vatican. It's a man's world. But when she's supposed to present Pacelli with the farewell gift from the German bishops, she sneaks into the Vatican. A little sneaky nun. When Pacelli asked Sister Pascalina to review his draft concordat with Germany, her comments aroused the displeasure of Pacelli's secretary Wilson on the one hand, but the approval of the Pope on the other. Well, Pius XI is a feminist who, to Pascalina's delight, decides that she may remain in the Vatican. Now, the Holy Father is going to let a nun live in the Vatican. Isn't that nice? While Pacelli successfully concludes the Reich Concordat with Germany, the Vatican, with its involvement, establishes diplomatic relations with the United States, whose President Franklin D. Roosevelt sends a special envoy to the Holy See, and she's an annoying worshiper of material things. Shortly afterwards, Pacelli's friend Cardinal Michael von Hallhauber informed him of the persecution of the Jews in Nazi Germany and of Adolf Hitler's disregard for the Reich Concordat. So the nuns' plea for separation of church and state should have been really separation of school and state, but she had no, for lack of a better word, libertarian principles, so she just wrote some modern 20th century nonsense for her papal nuncio, or whatever he was at this time. Pacelli suggested to the Pope that he address a circular letter in German to the German bishops. This resulted in the encyclical Mit Brander Sorge, with burning anxiety. And it was extremely anti-Nazi in tone, but it never got published. While Pacelli was dismayed to learn that Hitler had reacted to the distribution of the encyclical with drastic persecution, Pius, all of a sudden, Pius the 11th dies. What a coincidence. In the subsequent conclave, Pacelli was elected pope and took the papal name Pius XII. The new pope's appeals for peace proved ineffective. On September 1st, 1939, the Second World War broke out, while the conflict between Pascalina and Wilson continued to simmer. It's a man's world. Pius XII had to allay Britain's concern about its neutrality in light of his German housekeeper and chauffeur. Due to the criticism of her by the British press, Pascalina wished to return to Germany. However, the Pope refused. Instead, he assigned her the task of managing the Vatican's Magazzino storehouse and allocating the proceeds from the sale of church treasures to war veterans. Thus, the Pontifical Commission for Assistance was established. Why would you give it to war veterans? Anyways, the Vatican's silence regarding the ongoing persecution of Jews was viewed critically, but after the Archbishop of Utrecht publicly protested and 4,000 Dutch Jews were deported the following day, Pius XI feared even worse persecution. If he as Pope publicly criticized the persecution, he should have gone there to the concentration camps. That's his job as a suffering servant. Instead, when Rome was bombed, he organized medical aid for the wounded. And here we have a replay of Under the Tuscan Sun, or whatever it was called, the other biography of Pius XI. Meanwhile, the Pope receives a warning from Major Hermann of the German Wehrmacht that Hitler is planning to have the Holy See kidnapped and taken into Germany. Now, this is made up history here. We don't know if the Pope was ever threatened to be kidnapped. This is all made up stuff. Pius XI refused to leave the Vatican, and he prepares his resignation in case of the kidnapping. When the first Jews are deported from Rome, Pius XI offers them sanctuary in church institution, and he mobilizes the Palatine Guard. Yeah, so these Jews have to dress up like Vatican guards, so that their wives and children can have sanctuary in the convent. Shortly before his death in 1958, Pius XII still struggled with doubts about whether he acted correctly in the light of persecution of Jews by Nazi Germany. Well, he should have struggled with it, because now we know that he could have done more. Bergoglio released the secret conversations between him and the German ambassador. So now everything is out in the open. The people who want to canonize Pius XI, they have no strong case anymore. For the two-part film, the film crews had to move locations a total of 14 times, with filming taking place at various locations in Germany and Italy. The sequence about the Hitler push was filmed at the original location on Munich's Ondisplatz. About 350 extras in historical costumes were used, and the rain was artificially created. Filming inside the Vatican was not possible, so alternative locations that resembled Vatican architecture were sought. For the coronation scene on the papal balcony, a replica balcony had to be used. The costume department produced a total of 4,000 historical garments for the actors and extras. Garrone was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Monte Carlo Television Festival for his role as Pius XII. Director Marcus O. Rosenmuller received a nomination for Best Miniseries. A sprawling, dramatic television historical film that anchors the plot in the context of church history and provides insights into Catholic Church politics in the first half of the 20th century. Sister Pascalina was the first woman allowed to live in the Vatican, a long road alongside politically turbulent times. God's Mighty Servant is rightly a two-part film. The film tells the story of a nun who reduces the high sanctity of the environment to a down-to-earth, everyday pragmatism without turning the Vatican into the living room of a large family. A moving story, the right lead actress, a good film within the framework of the Jadito entertainment concept. Dude, you've got like 7 minutes to get your clothes on. I don't know why you're still laying in bed. All right, here we go. God's Mighty Servant, 2011, gets an okay 6.1 out of 10 on the IMDb. I'm giving it a higher rating, an 8 out of 10, 91 ratings. Story of the nun who stood out for her strong personality as a trusted servant of Pope Pius XII. Here's somebody who has a similar rating, a very moving film. This is by Frank. Why are you standing there? Why don't you get dressed? Okay. There. At times, Pius XII has been criticized for his weak efforts in opposing the Nazis, but has been credited see what it says. To the opposite, many times by Jewish scholars and organizations, Sister Pascalina certainly was a force in the Vatican and at times was the bull in the china shop, but in a much needed way. As the consigliere to the Pope, this team did all they could to save Roman Jews during World War II. That's debatable. The film was very enjoyable. All right. That's from Frank Fazio 101 4910, dated February 14th, 2018. The title of the IMDb review is Very Moving Film. Frank Fazio 101 4910 gives it an 8 out of 10, the same rating that I'm giving it. There's no question that she was a competent housekeeper. I questioned her writing skills, though, and I questioned Pius XI allowing her to essentially live at the Vatican for the first time, the first woman. Story of the nun who stood out for her strong personality as a trusted servant of Pope Pius XII. More like this, Conaca de una passione. All right. Release date April 8th, 2012 in Italy. Country of origin Germany. Language German, also known as God's Mighty Servant. Filming locations Munich, Bavaria, Germany. Production companies ARD Digendo Film, EOS Entertainment, and Gap Produzioni. Runtime 180 minutes. This is in color. The sound mix is stereo. The aspect ratio is 1.78 to 1. So there you have it. Venger. Oh, thanks. Venger Sticks says that I'm looking sharp. That's nice. All right. Yeah, I'm ready to go to church. Unfortunately, my son isn't. He's making me run late because he's just like laying there in bed and standing in the corner. I don't know what he's doing, but I guess he doesn't want you to see him in his pajamas. All right, Running Red, 1999, is number one on my list, followed by Mr. District Attorney, 1941, and Lolita, 1962. So we'll try to get to Running Red on Monday. I've got a busy day ahead. I've got church, KFC, maybe Safeway, and then dental appointment. Then I got to go back here and pack everything, put it in my car, and then I've got to drive to drop him off in San Mateo, then drive to San Francisco and move all my junk back into my Fleabag hotel. So that's going to be fun today. And thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of Pius the 12th in the comments. I wouldn't go so far as to call him Hitler's Pope, but I don't think he did enough to save Jews. Not that I think he had a duty to save them. That's just my opinion. He just, for practical reasons, I think he just compromised his position. That's just my 2 cents worth of nothing after inflation. Laters.